You uncover the sack and sift through its contents. Gleaming in the dim light, you see a mass of coins, silver plates, and candlesticks, jewelry, and all manner of precious and semi-precious stones. There are countless gold teeth, pulled no doubt from the mouths of fallen Lentian knights, and
Okay, we never done that.
what?
Pulled gold teeth from our enemies' mouths.
POVs, prisoners of war.
No. But you did steal an old man's horse, and scores of trinkets and other mementos taken from less noble corpses. One item you sense possesses magical properties. You pull it out, and on close inspection, you discover it to be a polished Jaden amulet, which is fixed into a gold neck chain. If you decide to keep this Jaden amulet, record it as a special item, which you wear around your neck.
Let me see.
It gives you a +1 to all rolls made to avoid ranged attacks.
Hold on.
All normal missiles, like, arrows, bolts, darts, stuff like that.
That could be useful.
Let me see. Gives 1 +2 all. Was it ranged attacks?
Well, all normal ranged attack, arrows, bolts, darts, knives, what have you. If someone who flings a fireball after you, that's not going to protect you.
Okay, but I might as well say it might be something that gives us an advantage, but I have a feeling that thing is going to cause us some trouble in the future. So like if someone just sees their former amulet hanging around our neck.
Well, having replaced the sack in its hole, you draw your cloak about you and approach the main gates. The guards are busy admitting the latest batch of prisoners, and helped by your camouflage skills, they do not give you a second glance as you stride confidently into the town. Once inside, you head towards a dark, deserted alleyway, which is sandwiched between the stables and an armory. From here you observe the compound with a growing anger and pity for those trapped inside. Stirred by their plight, you vow to help these starving men. Patiently you watch and wait for the patrols to pass, then you scurry towards the compound fence to make contact with the Lentians. Huddled together in a corner of the compound, away from the other prisoners, is a small group of men-at-arms. The fronts of their tattered blue coats bear the emblem of a crown set above the crest of Vadera, identifying them to be of the same regiment, the Imperial Vadera Guard, one of Lentia's finest. Using your Magna skills to avoid detection, you make your way to the fence and try to attract their attention. One of the number, a captain, sees you and is immediately suspicious. You signal him to come closer, and reluctantly at first he crawls towards the fence. And picture time.
Let us have a look. Huh. Okay. He has had better times in his life.
Yep. You are not Drakkar or Lentian. Who are you? What do you want? He hisses, through cracked lips that are blue with hunger and cold. Is this another Drakkar trick to devise to torment us? This is no trick, you whisper in reply, trying hard to reassure him. I am an ally in the service of your king. I want to help you and your men to escape. He holds you with his steely grey eyes and slowly shakes his head. It's too late to help us, he says sadly. We are too weak to resist. Some have tried and they all died in the jaws of the dogs. No, save yourself, stranger. Forget us. But if you stay here, you'll starve to death, we retort. Surely it's better to die fighting than waste away. The garrison here is small, barely 40 in number. I could cause a diversion and draw the dogs away. Your men may be weakened, but still they outnumber the enemy 5 times over. For each sake, man, have you lost the will to live? The Lentian captain glances over his shoulder at his starving comrades, and when he turns to face you once more, you see a faint glimmer of hope in his eyes. All of these men have been more than a week without food or shelter. Many have died, many are near to death. If they're too weak to fight an enemy who has food in his belly and a sword in his hand, perhaps if we had weapons. If you do as I say, you'll have weapons enough to pluck this town from under their very nose, you reply, earnestly. The Lentian narrows his eyes, and for a moment the trace of a smile softens his gaunt features. Very well, stranger. Tell me your plan. I'll prepare a diversion. When the guards and their dogs are drawn away from the perimeter fence, you must act quickly. You and your men must storm the gates, and once you're free, make your way to the armory with all haste. You'll find your weapons there. That's all very well, replies the captain skeptically, but how do you propose we get into the armory? It's the most secure building in the town. Don't worry about that, you say with confidence. I shall be inside, waiting to let you in. For a few moments the captain considers your plan in silence. Then, whether or not, he finally agrees. Very well, so be it. I'll pass the word. You watch as he returns to his men, then you leave the fence and retrace your steps to a darkened alleyway. When the coast is clear, you enter the stables and set a fire in the straw loft. Then as you are leaving, you open each of the stalls so that the horses will be able to escape once the fire has taken hold. On returning to the alleyway, you run to the rear of the armory building and locate a window through which you can force an entry. It is shuttered and barred, but aided by your innate kite skills, you are able to break it open. Unfortunately, the noise of your forced entry alerts the two Drakkar who are on guard inside the building, and as you're squeezing through the narrow window, they attack you with their black-bladed swords. So yeah, you're now fighting the armory guards. And because you're squeezing your way in through a window, you have 3 less combat skill in the first round. So what's
Let me add that.
Yeah, you don't have to write it down, rather. It's just 1 combat. For 1 round, even.
Oh.
So it's just... Your combat skill is what?
49 in total.
Yeah, so that would be 46 for this round. Okay. Give an ear. Roll a die.
1.
Okay. So you're busy squeezing your way through... trying to squeeze your way in through a window, and suddenly... Somebody runs up and sticks you in the rear with a sword. You lose 3 endurance points. You immediately...
How many was it?
They are adults. I hope.
Yeah.
Fuck.
You lash out with your legs and kick one man in the head as you finally force your way into the room. Roll with that again, give an ear.
But how many health points did we lose?
3.
Okay, good.
7.
Right. Okay. Immediately you twirl on the spot, drawing your blade at the same time, and immediately chop down one of the guards.
Would be really funny if the other one just started running in a panic. Best arm in the city, they said. Best combat trainee in all the world, they said.
Roll the die again, give an ear.
Ace.
And then you stab the other in the gut. He keels over, choking on his own blood. You win. As you step away from the dead guards, you hear shouts of alarm outside the building. The roof of the stables has just erupted into a sheet of flames. The garrison is thrown into a state of near panic as it tries to fight the fire and contain the forces, which are stampeding through the streets. You run the length of the armory and hurriedly lift the massive drawbar which holds the main door closed. Outside, you see the perimeter guards are abandoning their post in order to fight the fire, now raging through the stables. Valencians are on their feet. They are grouped by the entrance to the compound, and as the last guard of the guards leaves, they rush forward and barge open the gates. Led by the captain, they come streaming across the flagstone square towards the armory, sweeping aside any Drakkar foolish enough to try to turn this vengeful tide. With a cheer, they pour into the armory and equip themselves with weapons from its many racks of spears and swords. "Let's take this town!" shouts the captain, and amid stirring battle cries of Lencia and for the house of Sana, the starving Lencians set off to obey his command. You try to reach the captain, whose name you learn is Skera, but before you reach him, you're swept out into the street and carried along by this crowd of battle-hungry soldiers. The battle for control of Connorsod is swift and bloody. Within the hour, the town is under Lencian control, its Drakkar garrison having been put mercilessly to the sword. However, not all of the enemy perish in the battle. To Captain Skera's dismay, several manage to escape across the river and flee to the west on horseback. He is anxious that they may return with reinforcements to retake the town. A food store is discovered, and whilst the starving Lencians satiate their hunger, you talk with Captain Skera about the events of the last few weeks, which have led to this meeting. You learn from him that after you were interred in the Temple of Anta, Warlord Magnon waged a major offensive against the Lencian army. Having reunited the Doomstone with the Naira Scepter, he has, as King Sanak feared, forced the Naziranim sorcerers of Kagorst and Akasgasat to help him. Their combined skills have wrought great destruction. They attacked and drove through Valencian lines like demons in an offensive which was swift and deadly. A week ago, Captain Skera and his regiment were cut off and captured in the fighting around Hokidat, after which they were marched here and imprisoned. He considered himself lucky to be alive, for the Drakkar rarely take prisoners. Then you ask what news he had heard about the war since he came here. "There's much confusion," he says wearily. I heard talk that most of the mercenaries in Sanak's pay have deserted us. Some have even joined the enemy. The Dakarim taunted us, saying that our army had been smashed. They said the remnants had been pushed into the Tentarias, but I dismissed this as lies. One thing is sure, though. Magnon intends to raise the siege of Dark. It has become this battle call, On to Dark. This cry was on the lips of his troops during the battle at Hogidat. I saw him during this battle. He was leading his army personally, and he was wielding his accursed scepter, dealing death to all who tried to stand in his way. He possessed a great and terrible power, and I fear that we may now be unable to put an end to his evil ambitions. Do you wish to ask about Captain Prague?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just hear what happened to him.
Okay.
Scarrow considers your question and then he replies, I'm sorry, I have heard nothing. There have been so many men lost, killed or captured since Magnon attacked. I know of this officer, and though we never met, I heard tell that he is a good and brave man. All I can tell you is that I have not seen him here in Konosot. Captain Scarrow muster his men and post lookouts around the town wall as a precaution in case the Dakarim returned during the night with reinforcements. He then oversees the care of the sick and wounded. You are impressed by his devotion to the men under his command, and once his duties are completed, you return with him to the armory to formulate a plan of action. It is decided that it is too dangerous to remain here, and you agree that you should leave at first light. Scarrow says there are sufficient boats to transport everyone downriver to Dark, but there is a risk that you could run foul of Magnon's troops. However, he is determined to rejoin his army. If Valencians are still resisting Magnon, then he reasons that the city of Dark is where the battle is most likely to be taking place. Before you settle down to sleep, one of Scarrow's men brings you some food and ale. You recover 3 endurance points.
Thanks, good sir.
And remember to add one for when we are asked about Captain
Prague.
Prague.
Scarrow wakes you shortly before dawn, and warily you rise from your makeshift bed. Mindful of the journey ahead, you make a brief search of the armory and discover a few weapons and other items which could prove useful. There are 6 arrows, a quiver, a dagger, a sword, and a spear.
Arrows.
How many were we talking about?
6.
6 arrows. Okay, let me see.
The captain sends word to his men to find boats for the voyage downstream. The order is duly carried out, and within the hour, 20 small crafts have been brought to the icy river on the west side of the stone bridge. Scarrow appoints 10 men to each craft. Then you and he steps aboard the first boat, cast off, and begin a voyage that will take you towards the coastal city of Dark. The current is strong, and the river is free of obstructions, enabling your flotilla to make swift progress downstream. Much of the river bank is lightly wooded, and Scarrow commands everyone to remain vigilant in case there are Dakarim among the trees, lying in ambush. You pass through the woods without incident, and shortly before noon, you see the ruined town of Otnenga in the distance. Every building has been razed to the ground, and a pall of wood smoke hangs above the town, fed by fire still smoldering from the battle that took place here several days ago. The river here is blocked by debris, and you are forced to put ashore. Scarrow's men set to work clearing a passage while you and the captain scout the ruins in search of information. A soot-blackened road running east to west divides this shattered town in 2 halves. Scarrow suggests that you split up and search 1 half each, and you're not in agreement. Do you wish to search the north or south side of this ruined town?
North.
North.
Okay, no.